At 11 years old, Lionel Messi was told that his body might never grow normally. Every single night, he had to inject himself with growth hormone treatments just for the chance to keep chasing a football. Most children his age were dreaming about becoming professional athletes. Messi was fighting for the right to grow, and nobody, not his doctors, not his coaches, not even his family, could have imagined what would happen next. Because 24 years later, that same boy would stand at the center of the biggest match of his life. But this isn't really a story about football. It's a story about rejection, loneliness, pressure, and a psychological battle that almost broke one of the greatest athletes who ever lived. In fact, the key to understanding Lionel Messi's entire career lies in a private confession he made the night before the 2022 World Cup final. A confession we'll come back to later. But first, we need to go back to where everything started. Rosario, Argentina. Long before the World Cup, long before Barcelona, long before the Ballon d'Ors, there was only a small boy with a football, and from the very beginning, everyone could see he was different. Messi didn't just dribble past defenders. He seemed to glide through them. Children older, bigger, and stronger couldn't stop him. Coaches were amazed. Parents couldn't believe what they were watching. For a moment, it felt like with growth hormone deficiency. Without treatment, his body would struggle to develop normally. The treatment was expensive, around $900 every month. For Messi's family, that number wasn't just difficult, it was devastating. His father worked long hours in a factory. The family simply couldn't afford it. Suddenly, the greatest threat to Messi's dream wasn't a defender on the pitch, it was a bill. His family searched desperately for help. Major clubs in Argentina were aware of his talent. They knew how special he was, but when the medical costs entered the conversation, interest began to disappear. One by one, opportunities faded away. The dream was slipping through their fingers. Then, from thousands of miles away, came a phone call that changed everything. FC Barcelona, the Spanish giants, saw something others didn't. They offered Messi a chance. More importantly, they agreed to help cover his treatment. But every opportunity comes with a price, and for Messi, the price was enormous. At just 13 years old, he had to leave home, leave his friends, leave his relatives, leave the country he loved, and move across the Atlantic Ocean to Spain. Most people remember the trophies that followed, few remember the loneliness. Behind the headlines was a homesick teenager trying to survive in a completely different world. New language, new culture, new expectations. Many nights, Messi missed home so much that he cried himself to sleep. There were moments when returning to Argentina seemed easier than continuing. And that's what makes what happened next so remarkable. Because the lonely boy, who struggled to fit in, eventually became football's most unstoppable force. By the late 2000s, football had a problem. Everyone knew what Messi was about to do. Defenders knew, managers knew, entire stadiums knew. Yet week after week, nobody could stop it. He scored goals that looked impossible, created moments that seemed unreal, and broke records at a pace football had never seen before. 4 Champions League titles, multiple league championships, and 91 goals in a single calendar year. A record so extraordinary that many fans still struggle to comprehend it. Soon, football became divided into 2 camps, Messi or Ronaldo. For over a decade, the rivalry pushed both players to levels the sport had never witnessed. Every record felt temporary, every season felt historic. And through it all, Messi kept winning, at least at club level, because back home, a completely different story was unfolding. For Barcelona, Messi was a hero. For many in Argentina, he was becoming a disappointment. Year after year, he carried Argentina deep into tournaments. Year after year, heartbreak followed. Final after final. Opportunity after opportunity. Always falling just short. Criticism grew louder. Questions became more personal. People began questioning not just his performances, but his commitment. Some even claimed he cared more about Barcelona than Argentina. The pressure became relentless. Then came 2016. After another painful defeat, Messi stood before the world and made a shocking announcement. He was retiring from international football. Just like that, the dream appeared to be over. The boy who had fought through illness, rejection, loneliness, and impossible expectations had finally reached his limit, or so it seemed. Because true legends are often defined by what happens after their lowest moment. Argentina pleaded for him to return. Fans begged him to stay. And eventually, Messi came back. Not because it was easy, but because he couldn't let the story end that way. Years later, the meaning of that decision would become clear. Because everything was leading toward one final opportunity, one final tournament, one final chance. Messi was now 35 years old. This wasn't just another World Cup. Everyone knew it. This was likely his last chance to achieve the one thing missing from his career. Every match carried enormous pressure. Every victory brought him one step closer, and every setback threatened to end the dream forever. Then came December 18, 2022. Argentina versus France. A final that instantly entered football history. For 120 exhausting minutes, the match swung back and forth. Momentum changed, hope changed, everything changed. Until finally, it came down to penalties. And when the winning penalty crossed the line, something much bigger than a football match had been completed. A journey that began with an uncertain 11-year-old boy in Rosario had finally come full circle. But remember the confession we mentioned at the beginning? The one from the night before the final? According to accounts shared later, Messi admitted just how much this match meant to him. The pressure, the expectation, the realization that there might never be another opportunity like this again. Everything he had endured throughout his life had led to that single night. And perhaps that's why the victory meant so much. Because the World Cup wasn't simply a trophy. It was proof that the obstacles that once seemed impossible had never truly defined him. Not the illness, not the loneliness, not the criticism, not the failures. Lionel Messi's career became a reminder that greatness isn't built when everything goes right. It's built when every reason to quit appears. And you keep going anyway.